In this video, we're going to be looking at the lateral surface area and total surface area of triangular prisms that are made up of right triangles, that have bases that are right triangles. So notice that this is a base. I've already shaded it in, and I recommend you always shade in your base. And this is the other base. So on these, it's always easy to identify the base, because anytime you see a triangle in a prism, it's going to be a triangular prism, and the triangles are the bases. So I'm going to go ahead and label it real quick. This right here is a base, and this one right here is a base. Now there's a few things we're going to find. We are using similar variables in our formulas, just like we did on the rectangular prism. Notice to find the lateral surface area, we want to find the perimeter of the base and then the height. And just remember that when we're finding perimeter of the base, in this case, because it's a triangle, it has 3 sides. So we're basically going to just add the side plus the side plus the side. And that will give us the perimeter. When we talk about height, we're talking about the distance between the 2 bases. For example, if I went from this base all the way down to the next base, that would represent the height. And in this case, the height is 10. So I'm going to write right here, height. Now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start calculating some of this so that we can do the lateral surface area first, and then we'll go from there and do the total surface area. Now I want you to notice that one side of the right triangle has a value of 3, and then the other side of the right triangle, the other leg that touches this right angle, is noted on this side, and it's a 4. So we're going to take those 2 measurements. I like to call one the length and one the width. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. I'm going to call this one down here, the long one, the length. And I'm going to write right here, length. And that's going to be equal to 4. As we said before, the h, our height, was 10. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. The height was equal to 10. And going back down here to the triangle, right, if this is the length and it's 4, then this one that's vertical right here, this leg, is going to be the width. So I'm going to put W equals, and this is the width. So right here, for it says width, I'm going to go and write the word out. It is the width of the triangle, and it is going to be 3. Now often, a lot of times, they refer to this as the base and the height, but I don't like using the variables b and h, because when we use those, it may create some confusion with the h that we already have in the formula and with the b we have in the formula. So whenever I'm solving for surface area, instead of calling it base and height, I call it length and width. Now with those 2, now we've already got some things labeled. We have our values. We notice that we don't have the hypotenuse of the right triangle. So we don't have this side, this longest side of the right triangle. And we need 3 sides of a triangle to get the perimeter. In other words, I have s plus s plus s. That's our sides. Another way that you can look at this is, instead of an s, we could go ahead and change those s's, and we can write the length plus the width plus third value, and I'm going to use a lowercase l for that, and I'm going to call that to be the hypotenuse. So I'm going to write right above it, hypotenuse length. Now that value, we're going to have to calculate it. Notice they didn't give it to us, they just gave us these 2 sides, right? So with this side and this side. So the way we're going to calculate it is we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. So I left a little bit of room right here so I can do the Pythagorean theorem. And remember, that's simply going to be a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So we know what a and b is, right? So in other words, where it's 3 and 4, those are the 2 legs of the triangle. So they represent a and b. So I'm going to go ahead and put 3 for the first one, and I'll put 4 for the second one, is equal to c squared. And if I square this, this is going to give me 9, this is going to give me 16, and if I put it together, it gives me 25. So I can say c squared is equal to 25. Now do remember, when we have one like this, right, we got to take the square root of it to get our final answer, because we want a linear measurement. So c is going to be equal to 5. Because if I take the square root of 25, it gives me 5. So I've done the Pythagorean theorem, and I got this is 5. So my hypotenuse length is going to be 5. Now we have all three sides of our triangle. And if you like doing it, you could label these if you want. For instance, you know, right this side over here, this is 3. The bottom one is 4. And now that we found that the hypotenuse is 5, I can write a 5 up here. And this side is 5. So 3, 4, and 5. So if we want to find the perimeter, right, we're just going to add 3, 4, and 5. So let's do that down here at the bottom, now that we have these values. So for the perimeter, it's simply going to be 3 plus 4 plus 5. And that's based on my sides of the right triangle. I'm just going to draw an image here and label it. Right, we had calculated using the Pythagorean theorem what the hypotenuse was. It was 5. And then we have this side of the triangle, which is 3, and this side, which is 4. So if I redraw the base, that's where I'm getting my numbers from. And then we need the height. But when we're talking about the height, we're talking about the actual height of the prism. In other words, the distance between the two bases, between the two shaded areas. And that's going to be 10. And now I'm going to put that in the calculator, and we're going to see what we have. So if I get my calculator right here, I'm going to go ahead and put this in, and we have 3 plus 4 plus 5. And then I'm going to put parentheses and put my height, which is 10. And it gives me 120. So I can go ahead and write my LSA for this shape is going to be 120. And we'll say this is inches squared. Now what that means is the area that's not shaded, right? Those 3 rectangles that make up the sides of the prism, those are going to go ahead and calculate. If we were to cover them with a label, that would be equal to 120 inches squared. But now we want to find what would it take to cover this if it was our present, and to cover the entire object, right, including the 2 bases. So that's going to require us to go ahead and add 2 times the area of the base. So we're still going to be using these same values that we had, but now we have this big B we got to deal with. And going back up here, big B, notice is the only one I left off. We hadn't talked about it yet, right here. That is the area of the base. So I'm going to write that in real quick. This is the area of the base. Now, there is a formula for that. So I'm going to put equals here. Our formula for that is going to be 1/2 times the length times the width. So that's why I use this big L and this big W, because those two values, 3 and 4, are the numbers we're going to use in this formula. So we need to go ahead and we need to find that. I'm going to do it over here on the left where we have some room. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this, right? Notice, right, if I redraw the base, kind of like we used here, actually I'm not, if we look down here, I already got it drawn. I'm going to use the 3 and the 4. Notice they are the 2 legs of the triangle that touch the right angle. And so let's go ahead and do that. So we have the area is equal to 1/2 times the length, which is 4, times the width, which is 3. And we're going to put this in a calculator and see what we get for the area of the base. So alpha y equals, I'll put 1/2, parenthesis, and 4 times 3. And it gives me 6. So this is going to give us 6 inches squared. So when we talk about area of the base, it's going to be equal to 6. So now we have everything that we need to go ahead and use this formula here. So let's go ahead and I'm going to fill this out. So for the perimeter, we just have the 3 sides of the triangle being added together. The 2 legs and the hypotenuse are our length, width, and hypotenuse length. and then we're going to multiply that to the height, which is the distance between the two bases, which is 10, plus 2 times the area of the base. And the area of the base, when we calculated it using our area formula for a triangle, it gave us 6. So we're going to put 6 in there. I'm going to put this in the calculator, and then we'll have our final answer for total surface area. So this is going to be 3 plus 4 plus 5 times 10 plus 2 times 6. And we get 132. So the TSA, our total surface area, is equal to 132 inches squared. And that's how you solve for the surface area, for lateral surface area and total surface area of a triangular prism.